Right now, society is dealing with a massive, well-documented loneliness epidemic. Millions of people are desperate for human connection, yet there is a specific group of people who are doing the exact opposite. You look at your phone, see a text from someone who constantly drains you, and you simply delete it. You cut them off. And here is the reality that makes everyone else so uncomfortable. When you walk away from these people, you don't feel sad. You don't feel broken. You feel an overwhelming sense of peace. So how did you get here? How did you become the person who can sever a tie without looking back? Because the truth is, you weren't always like this. For years, you were the anchor. You were the friend who answered the phone in the middle of the night. You were the peacekeeper in your family. You absorbed everyone else's chaos, listened to their complaints, and gave everything you had to help them. But they never poured back into your cup. Until, one day, an invisible line was crossed. You stopped reaching out. You stopped explaining yourself, and the sky didn't fall. The room just got incredibly quiet. When you stopped trying, society might have called you cold or avoidant, but your brain was actually executing a highly evolved survival mechanism. Psychologists rely on something called the Polyvagal Theory, pioneered by Dr. Stephen Porges, to explain exactly what happens to you in these moments. Your autonomic nervous system is constantly scanning for safety. When you spend years in relationships where people take more than they give, your nervous system eventually realizes that social engagement is no longer safe. It's a threat to your energy. So it bypasses your conscious mind and flips a biological circuit breaker. It forces you into what is known as the dorsal vagal shutdown. You don't withdraw because you're a bad friend. You withdraw because your nervous system is desperately trying to conserve your emotional energy before you completely collapse. But we have to ask the deeper question: why is your nervous system so sensitive to this drain in the first place? For a lot of people who easily cut others off, the answer lies in childhood. If you grew up in a house where you had to tiptoe around the adults, you know exactly what this means. You learned how to read the emotional weather of a room before you even knew how to read a book. Renowned psychiatrist Dr. Bowen coined the term emotional cutoff to describe this exact phenomenon. You learned at a very young age that emotional closeness was dangerous and chaotic. So you developed an incredibly thick skin. You learned that the only place you were truly safe was in your own solitude. That childhood blueprint is still operating inside you today. But there's a massive nuance here that most people completely miss. There's a difference between building a wall out of fear and building a fence out of self-respect. Medical statistics constantly warn us that chronic isolation is terrible for your physical health, increasing risks for heart disease and cognitive decline. But what those studies often leave out is that being surrounded by toxic, draining people will destroy your body just as fast. So how do you know if you're isolating out of fear or protecting yourself from wisdom? Look at the data your body gives you. If you cut someone off and you feel a deep physical relief, you aren't isolating, you are detoxing. You aren't building a wall to keep everyone out. You're building a boundary to decide exactly who deserves a seat at your table. And you're incredibly good at deciding who gets that seat. People who are quick to cut others off are often master pattern recognizers. Recent neurological studies show that individuals who grew up having to manage other people's emotions have highly active frontal lobes in threat detection centers. You're not paranoid, you just process social data faster than anyone else. When someone love bombs you, you see the crash coming. When a friend only calls because they need a favor, you recognize the rhythm instantly. Your brain has processed thousands of hours of human behavior, creating a highly advanced early warning system. When that system tells you a person is going to drain you, you simply listen to it. You are not antisocial. You are just highly selective. There's a profound difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a state of psychological starvation. It's wanting connection and not having it. Solitude is a state of intentional fasting. It is choosing the quiet because the quiet is rich, safe, and entirely yours. You aren't sitting in your room wishing your phone would ring. You are sitting in the quiet, finally able to breathe without managing someone else's crisis. People who don't understand your boundaries will accuse you of running away, but you know the reality. You're running toward a version of yourself that refuses to exist in chaos. That isn't isolation. That is a sanctuary. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are not heartless. You are simply someone who learned the hard way that your peace is expensive, and not everyone can afford to be in your life. The Harvard Study of Adult Development, the longest-running study on human happiness in history, proved that it isn't the number of friends you have that determines your happiness. It is the quality and safety of those relationships. If your circle is incredibly small, but it is filled with people who actually respect your peace, you are doing it exactly right. If this hit home for you, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to MindNest. Let me know in the comments if you've ever felt that massive sense of relief after walking away. Protect your peace. I'll see you in the next one.